Welcome to the Space Podcast series, Stories of Change. This is an AI-narrated podcast series inspired by authentic curriculum redesign and institutional learning cases. In each episode, we explore how educators and institutions rethink teaching and learning to strengthen connections between universities, students, and society. Today's episode focuses on the University of Rijeka and its institutional experience within the Space Support Program for Community-Engaged Teaching and Learning.
When people talk about curriculum innovation, they often focus on redesigned courses or new teaching methods. But behind those visible changes, there is usually another layer of work: professional learning, peer support, institutional reflection, and collaboration across faculties. Today, I'm speaking with one of the institutional facilitators involved in the University of Rijeka's Space Support Program about what it means to support community-engaged teaching across an entire institution. To begin with, what was the overall aim of the support program?
The program was designed as a long-term professional learning process running across 3 semesters. Rather than offering a single training session, we created a combination of local peer learning meetings, international learning circles, one-to-one consultations, and ongoing reflective discussions. The idea was to give participants time to gradually rethink their teaching practices within their own disciplinary and institutional contexts.
And the participants came from quite different academic backgrounds, didn't they?
Yes, very different. We had colleagues from humanities, economics, law, health sciences, and teacher education, ranging from teaching assistants to full professors. That diversity became one of the program's strongest elements because participants could learn from perspectives and challenges outside their own disciplines.
The report places a strong emphasis on peer learning and trust building. Why did those aspects become so important?
Because community-engaged teaching often involves uncertainty. Participants openly discussed institutional barriers, workload pressures, ethical questions, and even fears connected to redesigning their courses. Over time, the program became less facilitator-led and more of a collaborative learning community where people supported one another through feedback, reflection, and shared problem-solving.
And did the program lead to concrete curricular changes?
Yes, definitely. Several participants redesigned courses to strengthen reciprocal relationships with community organizations and external partners. For example, colleagues from the Faculty of Economics expanded partnerships beyond traditional business collaborations to include non-governmental organizations and community actors. At the Faculty of Health Sciences, redesigned activities created more meaningful interaction between students and elderly community members, strengthening experiential learning and students' understanding of care and social responsibility.
So the redesigns were not simply about adding community activities into courses.
Exactly. Participants increasingly approached redesign as a broader pedagogical and societal responsibility, rather than a technical curriculum adjustment. The focus shifted towards reflection, reciprocity, and creating stronger connections between academic learning and social realities.
Were there also signs of institutional impact beyond individual courses?
Yes, although those developments are still emerging. The program increased visibility for community-engaged teaching within several faculties and opened conversations about professional development, partnership models, and institutional support structures. There was growing recognition that this kind of work requires long-term institutional commitment rather than relying only on individual enthusiasm.
And what were some of the biggest challenges identified during the process?
One major challenge was sustainability. Many innovations still depend heavily on the motivation and additional labor of individual academics. Questions around workload, institutional recognition, and long-term support remain very important. The program also highlighted the need for stronger involvement of community partners within the learning and reflection process itself.
And finally, what do you feel has been the most valuable lesson from this experience?
Probably that meaningful educational change requires time, trust, and collective reflection. What mattered most was creating a supportive environment where people could openly discuss challenges, experiment carefully, and learn from one another across disciplines and institutional roles. In many ways, Community-engaged teaching and learning is ultimately about relationships, and relationships need time to develop.
A thoughtful reminder that institutional transformation begins not only with redesigned curricula, but with creating spaces where educators, students, and communities can genuinely learn together.
This story is based on real experiences from curriculum redesign and institutional development processes run under the Erasmus Plus Space Project. More information about the cases and the Space Project can be found on the website www.community-engagement.eu.